Well, welcome to Impromptu, the game for thinkers. I'm excited again today. I have a very special guest. I have my oldest child, Miss Eden, with us today. And so, Eden, the game, you know how it works. I'm going to ask you, we're going to have 3 statements, right? 5-minute conversation. Mr. Nate will tell us when it cuts off. And so we're just going to have a 5-minute conversation about stuff, right? And the theme for yours, right, is because as your dad, I'm always trying to really help you have the best life you can have. And so that's kind of the theme is you're in your teenage years and I want to help you navigate them, right? Okay. And so the first one I want to talk about, right? I think every teenager, every parent is always talking to their student, their child about being themselves, right? Being yourself. And so I want to see if I could put a different spin on it, right? Okay. And so here's how I think of being yourself. Because, I'm a Christian and put that in that perspective. All right. Yeah. So here we go. Do you know that you cannot sin if you are doing what God made for you to do, right?
And why do you think that is?
Oh, because God made you, right? Mm-hmm. So if he made you to do something and you do it, then you can't be doing it wrong, right?
Okay.
All right. So if that's the case, then one of the best ways for you to not sin is for you to be yourself. Because then you're being what God made for you to be, right? And so that's what I want for you. I want you to be yourself.
Okay, well, how would you take teenagers who really don't know themselves a lot of the time, we're trying to figure ourselves out, if they put on a type of character this whole time and they think they're following in what they're doing, then they could just say, oh, I'm not sinning, I know who I am, and they could be putting on a whole character because they don't know themselves.
Oh, well, that's the question, right? Do people know themselves in order to be themselves, right? Yep. Now, I would say, and I think your mother helped me with this idea of self, right? And so I would say you're right? One of the things that you find in specifically a bunch of ancient African educational systems and pyramids and things like that is this idea that you see the phrase repeated thyself several times, know thyself. You've heard that before, right? Yeah, your mama's talked about that, right? And so I think what would be helpful here then is defining the self, right? Okay. So I don't know if you've seen me or mom do this before, but psychology I think helps, right? Mom's talked to you about the cognitive triangle, right? Yes. All right, so thoughts, feelings, actions, right? So in my mind, I think I'm about to show you where I think the self is. And you're right. If you know that self and then you be that self, I think you'll be good to go, right? Yeah. So here's the self, right? In the cognitive triangle, there's thinking, there's feeling, there's behaviors, right? And we know that each of them can influence each other. What you think can change how you act can change how you feel can change what you think, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so what the goal of the cognitive triangle is to do, right, is to show that you can insert choice in any of the triangle spots, right? Mm-hmm. You could choose, right? Your behavior, you could choose not to let it affect your feelings. And you could choose not to let it affect your thoughts, right? Well, in my mind, I asked this simple question, who's doing the choosing? Because whoever's choosing is a part of you that is not your thoughts, your feelings, or your actions, right? Mm-hmm. It's something else. And not only is it not those things, it's watching those things. It also is inserting choice so that you can make better decisions. So it knows the good decisions you're supposed to make, right?
Yeah.
So the self, in my mind, I call that the self, right? That self is able to step out and watch those three things and help to make sure that those 3 things are making the best decisions, right? So I say, get to know that self. Get to know thyself. Get to know that part of you that's not your thoughts, your actions, or your behaviors. And the more you are that thing, right? I would say that's how you know you're not sinning.
But then how would you relay that to people my age? How would you tell them to know those parts of themselves when they didn't even know that their behaviors can affect their thoughts, and vice versa, So it's like a lot of teenagers go through a whole bunch of hormone changes, personality changes, all of that. They might not know how to tap into themselves. They might just be following in their godly step. And then when somebody tells them, oh, maybe you should start learning about yourself, you're like, I already thought I was. I already thought I was doing this. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do.
Well, I think that's the dance of parenting, right?
Yeah.
That's the dance of parenting, right? Is that you are ultimately, right? You are discovering you, right? And the truth is, I can't discover you, right?
Yeah.
For you. But what I can do and hopefully try to do is show you how to walk the path to better know yourself, to do that, right? And I think that's the dance of parenting, right? And that's where I actually think, or not just even parenting, that's the dance of mentoring. That's the dance of discipleship. That's the dance of community. That's the dance of family, right? Is that people who genuinely care about you are hopefully trying to help you know that part of yourself so that you can discover it. Ultimately, you have to do it, but they're trying to help you, right? And so yeah, I think that's what happens. And my hope, right, is always like, I hope that my children will listen to me enough to where that I can help them with that part, right? And so that's how I would try to help. And that's how I do try to help. I work with teenagers and kids, and that's how we do try to help them is like, hey, how can we help you to be the person God created for you to be, which is yourself?
Yep.
Right? And so that's how we do that.
I agree. I think that what you do for the kids is very good because a lot of kids, when they're going through their spiritual walk or just the walk in life, they always need somebody to guide them. Because, like, we look around and we're like, oh, we have our parents, we have this. Like, we don't, like, those two people may not be as close as the relationship that me and you have. Yeah. So it's hard for them to have anybody to talk to, especially when they want to explore different spiritual ways and different walks in life with their walk in God. Because I know a lot of teenagers now are starting to get into spiritual stuff. Me too. So it's like we need a path to go down to help us, pick and what we would decide we want to do, because Christianity has changed a lot. So a lot of teens are changing in their Christianity and stuff like that.
I'd love to hear more about that. I knew that was coming. I was like, I'd love to hear more about that, but Mr. Nate's going to yell at us. I knew that was coming.
I already know.
I was telling it. I was like, I want to hear more about that.
We were close.
All right, here's the second one.